Transportation and Safety Board is learning more about this mid-flight fuselage blowout that disrupted an Alaskan Airlines flight on Friday. During a news briefing on Monday, the NTSB official pointed to a faulty fittings on the aircraft's door plug.
The exam to date has shown that the door, in fact, did translate upward. All 12 stops became disengaged, allowing it to blow out of the fuselage. We found that both guide tracks on the plug were fractured. We have not yet recovered the 4 bolts that restrain it from its vertical movement, and we have not yet determined if they existed there.
The door will be taken to the NTSB headquarters here in D.C., where they will continue the investigation. Certain Boeing 737 MAX 9s are grounded around the world, pending a thorough probe into this incident. And for more on Boeing and the fallout, now we're joined by Mark Hackett. He's a former airline captain and industry expert. Mark, good for you to join us here. An inflection point, but I think also frustration on the side of customers of Boeing, obviously shareholders frustrated. I have to think the management of Boeing is frustrated as well. Today they made a statement that essentially took on the responsibility that was expected. Are you surprised by what the CEO said?
Not at all, Phil. Actually, thank you very much for having me on again. Actually, Boeing has, historically stepped up and been one of the first to fix issues that they've had in their fleets in the past. And I'm not surprised at all for Boeing to take the lead on this and to make sure that the aircraft are safe for everybody.
Spirit is one of the suppliers. They're based out in the Midwest. They actually make the fuselages, and correct me if I'm wrong, they make the fuselages. They had the hole where I guess this door went. They also made the plug to cover the hole, and they also installed it. So a lot of people would think that wouldn't they be responsible? But I suppose since final assembly is over in Seattle, thus Boeing is responsible, and there's a situation where they're both responsible.
Well, certainly they both share responsibility, Phil. I think that Spirit, I'm not exactly sure where their manufacturing starts and stops with regards to class seating and final preparation for the aircraft before it gets to the customer. But Boeing is ultimately responsible. That Spirit would be a subcontractor for Boeing, and that's why Boeing really needs to take the lead on this and make sure that they're actually implementing procedures and policies to produce a safe aircraft, whether it be through a third party like Spirit and beyond.
Is the aircraft safe? I mean, I say that because the public does not necessarily think so. I mean, industry experts say it is safe. But with the incidents that we've seen over the past couple of years, it is fair that the public is asking questions.
Oh, sure, it's fair. And to answer your question, absolutely, 100%. The aircraft is safe. I mean, these things do happen. Phil, we got to take it in kind of a grander scheme here. Over 90,000 flights a day depart worldwide. Boeing is a major manufacturer, and a lot of those aircraft are Boeing. And we do have incidences. It's a misnomer that a lot of people say regulations and procedures are sometimes written in blood. I think we're very thankful that in this particular procedure, in this particular instance, it's not written in blood. We were able to catch something before, God forbid, somebody did die. And we're able to make these aircraft safer. But Boeing is a very safe manufacturer. I've been an airline pilot for 30 years. I've flown a lot of aircraft, primarily Airbus. I'm an Airbus guy. But Boeing has been historically safe, and I don't see anything changing that in the future.
In the past 48, 72 hours, United and Alaska, both of the major players that operate this variant, which is the 737, MAX 900 version, yeah. They discovered in their safety checks that some of the bolts were missing from the door. And it's not just one door, but multiple aircraft. There has not been an explanation as to why these bolts would be missing. And I'm not conflating and relating A and B together, but this doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense to a lot of people, Phil, to be honest with you. I mean, I saw the NTSB report, and I watched Jennifer Harmedy's report about the stop bolts that were apparently either seared or missing which allowed the door to actually translate up, which gave it the ability to move out. It is troubling that these aircraft inspections are now finding missing bolts. Something that's troubled me a little bit, and it's really hard to speculate early on, but it didn't appear that these bolts were safety wired. In aviation, most of the aircraft bolts are safety wired, so they cannot untorque, they cannot loosen. And by pictures I've seen on some of these stop bolts, they didn't appear to be safety wired. Now, I just think that means that they did not believe the torque specifications required it, that they could not come loose. But we're seeing different, aren't we, Phil?
The previous incident saw a worldwide grounding of these MAX jets. Boeing was not able to deliver them. In fact, they have a backlog, I believe, of nearly 4,000 of these jets. This time around, again, it's just this variant for now. But if the investigation continues and they discover other bolts missing from other variants, that could lead to a wider and broader shutdown, if you will, of a lot of these jets, which would then have a much bigger impact on travelers, not just in the U.S., but around the world.
Certainly. I think you saw not only Alaska Airlines and United Airlines take the lead in grounding their own fleets initially, and then the FAA stepped in and issued an airworthiness directive to have these exits checked. I think it's important to point out that not all MAX 900s are affected. In this particular variant, the MAX 900 that's affected is the one that has a plug-type door, not an emergency exit. Based on the actual seating of the aircraft and how many passengers the aircraft seats depends on how many exits the aircraft actually needs for egress. In both the United and the Alaska type MAX 9s, they don't need the extra emergency exit. So those doors are plugged with plug types in the emergency exits. They're permanently installed and only removed for maintenance cycles, I think around 4,000 or 5,000 hours. So I think it's important to realize that the 171 aircraft or so, I might be wrong on that number, but I think it's about 171 that were grounded was due to the plug type door. So the FAA is taking it very seriously, and I know United and Alaska are taking it very seriously. We're just interested. We're all standing by to see how Boeing, as long as Boeing stays transparent, and
right.
they let everybody know what the problem is and how they're fixing it, I think they're going to be okay.
Mark, I mean, I think all of us are rooting for Boeing to be transparent and for aircraft to be safe. But going back to the issue of these missing bolts on this one particular area, because they inspected it, it makes the public, scratch their head and wonder, well, if bolts are missing in this particular compartment or this area, do we need to check the other areas? And maybe this is for another time. But I think being public safety and public confidence in the U.S. aviation market is critical. Mark Hackett,
yeah.
Appreciate your time on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.